It's
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, I wanted to do a recording to showcase sort of what you've been building, why you decided to build it. So kind of high level, if you want to talk about, maybe just touch real quick on just the evolution of your journey using Claude Code or like building with AI.
Mhm.
And then when you initially got the idea to do this, the bottlenecks you encountered initially, and then where we're at now.
I'm just going to test that if this screen share actually works, because you got to remember I'm on a customized Linux.
Oh yeah.
I didn't even have video drivers for the web.
I want to show you guys what my social system looks like. So this is it's just a custom dash. Hello.
I just switched. Yeah, I just went onto my iPad because I think what's happening is it's the whole like Linux desktop is crashing every once in a while. So probably the drivers for the webcam are doing things. So
could you if you have Jarvis open on your laptop at some point, once we dig into that, could you just like flip the camera and then just like screen record the?
Yeah, we could do that.
And then we could always do like a more like in-depth walkthrough later.
Yeah, probably when I'm back home and I'm on because like I have a webcam and everything on the actual machine and everything. So because let me just see.
I also think I'm gonna try to later on re-record that. It's on my list for the week, but do a vertical AI avatar. I mean, sorry, not vertical, like landscaped version for YouTube.
Well, and then because we can do, if we have I can use that also for doing like vertical video as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, because it's just basically cropping it at that point. So unless you want it to be, kind of look and feel a little bit different, right? Like, then that becomes an option, different styles. But yeah. So yeah, like we can maybe redo this properly, but like I can just kind of ramble right now and try to remember even like, when did I start doing this stuff?
Well, you've been kind of like reading about AI, like you said, for a little while.
Yeah, well, like when I got a PC, when did we get one at home? I think it was 1980 or 81. And around that time, then I was looking, UBC actually had a dial-up service for universities. I was like, oh, that'd be cool. Like internet wasn't around, but ARPANET was, so which was connecting like universities and everything. And then it was like, oh, that'd be kind of cool to go online. And this is like 81 or 82. And then at that time, obviously, computers, and it's like, oh, AI, and then reading into like where AI research was at that point and everything like that. So I've been following it from the early 80s, and every once in a while trying to, learn a language like Lisp or Prolog and stuff like that. And so kind of following it along. And so when like ChatGPT came out and all this, obviously playing around with it. And then as soon as they started being at least some capability of coding, I think like a lot of us, it'd be like, oh, generate some code, and then you'd copy paste it into an IDE and kind of go like, okay, is this, kind of work? And it felt cool, but, it was very clunky. And then I think it was at some point I switched over to Claude because they came out fairly early on with their desktop app. And then when they supported MCP servers, then right away I connected it to my file system. And then Claude was able to, directly, write to files. So the programming like kind of went further on. And then when Claude Code came.
Sorry, yep. Can you explain real quick what an MCP is? Just for people that may not know.
It's short for Model Context Protocol. Basically, it's just a communications way that an AI LLM can access a service. So you're basically giving the AI tools. So it's just a kind of a protocol that Anthropic came up with, and it's been adopted across everywhere, that the AI can know, like, here's a bunch of tools you can use. This is what they can do. And it doesn't have to figure it out from scratch every single time. And so like one of the tools was how to read and write from your local file system, so then it knew how to do that and can do that. So that was a big step forward in kind of like coding. I wasn't copy pasting anymore.
It could just automatically connect to your file system and write the code directly.
Yeah, write the files, and then it could read those files as well. And, it couldn't run things locally. So then I would have to run it, and then any debugging would have to go. I'd copy paste that into the desktop app and say, hey, this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. So it was, slow in that sense, but like a big advance forward. Then I also played around a lot with like using VS Code and then some of the, LLM attachments into there. you could do a lot more. It got more advanced because then it could actually, start to run bash commands and, actually run programs on your computer. Claude Code, I don't remember when it actually launched, but I think it was the first time I tested it was, I think somewhere in the beginning of 2025. It wasn't part of your Claude subscription yet. So, it's just API and like
Yeah.
ridiculously expensive. So I think, and it was still hallucinating and doing things. So it's like, burn through $100 in a couple hours. And it's like, oh, that was garbage. But it was very interesting. I think like it was like Sonnet 3.5 or something like that with the model back then. So then going forward for doing actual work in 2025 in the summer, started doing quite a bit. And again, it was just using the desktop app with the MCP on the file server and, building quite a few things and shipping things. It was actually a pretty decent workflow. And as the models kept improving, it got better. But then I think it was fall of 2025 when, Claude Code, became part of your subscription. And that's when things just started to take off. Models were getting better. The Claude Code harness was getting better. Up until the end of the year, it was like really good. And then like the beginning of this year was like, again, it was just like, okay, new models, much more capable, or Opus 4.6 and 4.7, like they were big jumps in just capability, and GPT 5.4 and 5.5 and stuff like that. And so it was around that time. I can't remember when OpenClaw came out because that was around the beginning of the year as well.
I think OpenClaw was like January of 2024.
Yeah, something like that.
2026. Yeah.
Yeah. So at that time, obviously playing around with it, trying it. And because I'd already been working on a bunch of projects, large projects, multiple repos. So like I would have, lots of terminal windows open, working on different projects, prompting, blah, 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 blah. And then it was like OpenClaw came out and I was thinking, oh, could I use that or modify it to sort of be my, kind of CTO, Jarvis, whatever, like everybody's playing around with that. But for the way I work, it just didn't work because I wanted to not just do sub-agents of itself, but I wanted it to be able to actually, open up a Claude Code session or a Codex session and, control that session the same way as a human would. And, it couldn't do it, blah, blah, blah. It was just clunky, everything. So I kind of gave up on that and continued to work the way I was working. But maybe a little over a month ago, I was going, it's like, this is crazy. I should just build my own dashboard to manage all the terminals. So because, you'd have lots of them open. Then you go, oh, which project was this one in? Because sometimes it's not always visible directly as to like, okay, which project is this agent working in? What's it doing? So it was like, oh, like this is just, not efficient. So then I built this dashboard where it just arranges everything on my screen. I can have as many of these things open for projects, and I have kind of like dedicated agent sessions for all of them. And I can just drop into any one of them. I have different views, so it's easy to just control them. I can have, and then they can also be, because I tend to work across multiple machines as well, so instead of then being on one machine and, remoting into another terminal, another machine, and then running Claude Code there, blah, blah, blah. Like now it still happens, but I don't have to care about like where it is. It just automatically will be on that machine, for example.
Quick question on that. So why do you work across multiple machines instead of just like doing all of your development on a single machine?
Partially is because I'm actively working on, and some of these are very large code bases, on probably like 20 projects right now, pushing all along at the same time. They have different hardware requirements, and then some client stuff goes to repos that get deployed on Railway and everything, and just to have a little bit of separation. But the primarily is just like I need more machines as well, because I might have something that needs to use GPU a lot, or something's running something that's using a lot of CPU, and then I'm developing something else and it's testing, and then now I've got conflicts on, resource use. So it's just to spread out the resources, because a lot of the stuff is creating graphics engines and stuff like this. And so when you're testing those, like you're using the resources. So yeah, it just spreads across machines. So I have one dashboard and all the projects could be on 20 different machines, but for my dashboard, it doesn't matter. They're all just in one place. And so that was working really well. And then it came to me, it's like, okay, I'm lazy. So, and a lot of this stuff, a lot of the design work is done, and it's just like building and testing and things like that. So it's like, okay, well, how hard would it to be now to add Mike Jarvis, who kind of oversees all these tabs. What I was trying to do at the beginning of the year, and now it's because I built this
with OpenClaw.
OpenClaw. Yeah,
and real quick, so the thing, just for the audience listening, the thing about OpenClaw, why it was so interesting was because for the first time, it kind of felt like you had your own little mini assistant, because you could give it like, you had one spot to talk to OpenClaw, and OpenClaw was connected to all of your project folders, and you could give it access to different tools. And so you could just type in like plain English. It felt like it kind of, for the first time, felt like a real assistant. So yeah, I just wanted to
and it would learn how to do things. If something was missing, it could, build things, install things, whatever, right? Like, so it had a little bit of, that agentic autonomy. It could do things for you without you having to tell it everything. And because like, I don't need a personal assistant to check my emails, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm very capable of doing that myself. And then I've already arranged my life that I don't live in an inbox. So like, I have now connected my emails just because it works. But back to like building my own Jarvis, it was like, without planning to, just this dashboard I created, actually adding a Jarvis that can control all those things was like, it was just plug and play. So the architecture I'd built for myself, adding a Jarvis was just simple. So now, my Jarvis, can manage. So if we're working on a project, there's a tab open, I can view that terminal tab, I can see it, but also Jarvis can now go to that tab, prompt that agent in the terminal and tell it what to do. I can watch it or I don't have to. And so that terminal and that agent like can't differentiate between a Jarvis doing it or me doing it. So it's not a sub agent of Jarvis or anything. And, those are persistent terminal sessions and everything. So if my dashboard goes down, like everything just keeps running,
So if I can clarify, so regular vibe coding is like, we would open up a session in Claude Code or in our terminal with Claude Code, and we would type to it, we would prompt it, and we would tell it what to do. And then that agent that we're prompting could then spin up other agents or sub agents to help execute this, like bring this project to the finish line. And we prompt it along the way as I ask questions and stuff. But the difference here is you're not just spinning up a master agent and prompting it. It is acting on your behalf. It is actually spinning up the terminal and typing in the terminal to carry these projects forward.
Correct. Yeah. And I can jump in on any of those. It's not hidden. It's not like sub agents. You can't really see them. Like technically you can, but you can't prompt them separately. Like here, I can jump in and take over on the project directly instead of going through Jarvis. Hey, tell that agent to do this. I'll just jump in the project and start prompting directly. And then it's like, okay, we fixed that. And then I might tell Jarvis, hey, I just went in and told it to do some stuff, whatever, keep a monitoring on it, So it doesn't work for me. It works alongside me. So at any point I can jump in anywhere and take over, which with something like OpenClaw or even just Claude Code and subagents, you can't actually do that. So
yeah.
So if Jarvis went away, like it'd be a little bit more work for me to just jump in on everything. But like so it's not all hinged on how well Jarvis works either. So yeah. And then I also, part of this dashboard, I created because I want to live in my dashboard. I don't want to be running all kinds of different stuff. So this is even before Jarvis. I already connected. I basically, in my dashboard, I have a workspace that's my Slack workspace. So it's my personal Slack versus using the Slack app. Otherwise it's all the same. It just matches the view of my desktop thing. But again, because I built that, Jarvis now automatically had access to my Slack without having to additionally, add Jarvis as a bot on my Slacks, blah, 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 blah. Like Slack knows nothing about Jarvis, yet Jarvis has all access to my personal Slack. And so it can read stuff, it can post on my behalf. And then I set up a service, a comms channel for all the agents, which I call Bifrost. It's a little service running with an API. So when Jarvis prompts an agent to work on a repo and do something, when it finishes, it'll actually post to Bifrost, hey, to Jarvis, hey, I finished doing whatever, or there's a problem, whatever. And so it makes it easier for Jarvis to just look at the Bifrost communication versus like
Yeah.
going to each terminal tab and seeing where they are at. So
There's one central spot that all the agents
yeah, there's a
post
communications
to.
hub, and basically I haven't allowed them, but like, we can spin up even some kind of sub agents to do automatically stuff, and so technically the agents can talk to each other. It's not just between Jarvis and these agents. Like the agents could talk to each other if we
They can
needed
collaborate and
yeah, we could set that up like that. So like all that's built out, and just a matter of using it. And so, I'm sure a lot of people have heard the whole idea of loops and loop engineering and everything. So basically, either me or Jarvis will, prompt a project and we'll give it a goal to try to complete, which is basically loops, and it has, structure and everything like that. But then Jarvis itself runs on a loop. So it's got a heartbeat, it's got wait cycles where it goes and checks any comms and texts back, and,
explain what the heartbeat is.
So that's basically, so an LLM is, not alive. It's always sitting there waiting for a prompt.
Yeah.
So if you're not prompting it, it's just going to sit there waiting. So what a heartbeat is on my computer, there's basically a timer that says, every 30 minutes, wake up, and it basically tells Jarvis to go do something. And Jarvis can kind of manage what's on that to-do list when it wakes up. So one of the things is go check all the Bifrost comms, see if there's any new stuff. It'll do an email sweep, it'll do a Slack thing, and is there anything there, that it needs, and then can, work on those. And then another thing is like at night, it has the self-maintenance kind of self-improvement loop that it'll go, okay, like what did I learn today? What can we improve? Consolidate my memory and things like that. So, and it, it's been building a vault memory as well, kind of long term. So if I'm interacting with people in emails and everything like that, it'll create a file about those people, and it can learn the context of everything, how they're connected to me and the jobs that I'm doing and things like that. So none of this is really new. There's a lot of stuff out there. People talk about it, but I'm just integrating it all into kind of my own dashboard here. And so I run everything on Linux, so it's easy to kind of modify and build things. And so like my whole desktop thing, I'm in the middle of adding basically another workspaces, which is just a web browser. So instead of stepping outside of my dashboard and opening up Chrome, I'll just have basically Chrome built into my dashboard.
So you do everything from this one thing because Jarvis is integrated into this dashboard, so it can control.
Yeah, and even if Jarvis wasn't, it's still, because like all of this is running. This is kind of a client server, so all this is running on one machine, like this dashboard hub. But I'm actually primarily running a version of it, a remote client version of it on my laptop. Yeah. So I could be anywhere out, and what I'm looking at is all happening in one place. It's not happening locally on my laptop. It's all happening back on my servers and everything.
So you're just remoting into the servers from your laptop.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on VPN. All my devices are on the same network. So, I just built, and I'll add this also into kind of the workspace, but I built, I'm working on stuff. Some of it requires a visual review, like say it's a web page or a render. Now I'm remote, like it's been rendered onto a machine somewhere else. It's like, oh, how do I view it? So I built a review hub that, if it's a video or an image or a web page, it posts it to basically an internal website that I can then go on any device, my phone, my iPad, my laptop.
Yeah.
I can review and see without having to like first copy it over onto this local machine. So I have a whole review place. So, and then I can actually leave comments there, or approve it or whatever. And that goes back into Bifrost, and then the agent that posted it will know that I approved it and continue working on it, or Jarvis can, monitor and make sure that things go forward and everything. So
yeah, I mean, I've already received a few communications from Jarvis regarding like our clients, and like, because it's proactively doing stuff for our clients. So it's just like, it's awesome. Like I get emails of like things it's already done and fixed and like all of this. So it's cool.
Yeah, because like, we've deployed stuff for clients. We have those deployments have server monitoring via Sentry. Those, we can have it actively listening, but even things come up in email reports. Well, Jarvis reads those emails and will flag it and say, hey, we should be doing something about this. And then I'll I'll tell it, yeah, okay, delegate to the appropriate, agent that's in charge of that project to work on it, and fix it. So yeah, I kind of built an infrastructure that works how I want, like what I would have wanted at the beginning of the year, and it kind of came around kind of accidentally now.
So can you explain just real high level, like the implications of this, how we're like, why this is so powerful for us as a AAA agency, an AI automation agency, to basically service more clients without necessarily needing to now, because that's the biggest part of an agency, or one of the hardest parts is like, as you scale, you need to hire more people to manage accounts and blah, blah, blah. But we can keep a relatively tight ship here because of Jarvis, because of what you've built. Like, can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, so scaling now is only a factor of, to some degree, a little bit more hardware potentially. For a lot of the client work, it doesn't require a lot, but there's one massive project I'm working on is 9 repos that actually each need serious hardware. So, but that's a whole kind of separate thing.
Yeah.
But to scale, it's really tokens and to a smaller degree hardware. So as I'm refining Jarvis and kind of this whole workflow, it's like we could double our clients, and my time maybe only goes up by 10 minutes, 20 minutes initially. Because to view and keep up to date on things becomes really easy, because I'm building my own kind of Jarvis dashboard where it'll tell me, so I don't always have to ask it like, okay, like what's being worked on right now, where are blockers, where am I needed to make a decision.
Yeah.
And then I can jump in, read where we are at, make a decision and push things forward. So Jarvis in some way helps me manage my time across all the clients. Nothing will get forgotten, things can get pushed on. So scalability is insane, really,
Which is cool, because like right now it's kind of like I'm kind of like the interface between the client and the building of the project. And so like when we get a client, we basically bring them into Slack channel. They can post any updates, like if they need something built out or changed, or maybe a new feature. Basically, we just take that, and then I hand that off to the internal Slack channel. And then now we have like before we had Jarvis, it was basically you that were taking those and doing the build and stuff. But now it's like Jarvis kind of picks up most of this for us. It still flags things. It seems before it does any like major pushes. So like that you kind of review and stuff. But like for the most part, it's just like client request comes in, we can turn it around so quickly because of the system.
Yeah, exactly. And as we build a system, and as it gets more mature, small bug fixes, things like that start to go, fairly autonomously. Feature requests, would go at a high level to Jarvis to kind of, how we'll do it is it'll automatically go for a review. Jarvis will drop it off to the agent in charge of that project and say, here's a feature request. What are the impacts? Blah, blah, blah. Come back with a report and a, implementation plan and, risks, blah, blah, blah. I would review that and then, either give my feedback or then say like, okay, let's go with it, So it'll never be, just like in any organization, it's not like it's just going to go like whatever the client asks, it's suddenly going to start doing, and suddenly things break and everything. So,
because sometimes clients will ask like weird things too that don't really apply. Maybe it's because sometimes what happens is it's more of a user error thing where they're just not using it correctly. So to build solutions, I've actually ran into that in the past where I built a tool for a client and the client was actually using it wrong. And so because they were using it wrong, they thought it was a tool problem, but the tool had all the capability for them to use it correctly. And so I started down this like cycle of like pushing fixes, even though the fixes weren't required. And then that added more confusion and so on and so forth. But the solution wasn't actually another code push. It was just like a quick, hey, actually to do that, just do this, do that, and boom.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing of, the old problem of just change management. You get new tools, you got to teach people how to use them properly. So, and then also there's the fact that like it might be a legitimate ask, but they're not asking it in the proper way. And if that just goes kind of unfiltered through to AI agents, they'll go, sure, I'll build that for you, and then it's like, yeah, no. So, and even just having a couple agents filter between already weeds out a lot of stuff. So, getting an assessment, risk, blah, blah, blah. And that's that whole loops. It's like, it's not like, here's a request, go build it. It's like, here's the request, assess, how does this even fit into the product? What are the risks if we implement this? What are the security risks? All these kinds of things. And it's just normal, kind of software development structure and systems. But, you just got less and less humans having to do a lot of the stuff.
I actually want to touch on that because that was my next question is like Jarvis being your CTO. So what does that mean? And then because Jarvis doesn't need to fully understand the intricacies of every single client project. Because for each of our clients, we have project folders that source all the contacts, the repo, all of that. And Jarvis doesn't necessarily need to know the intricacies of that because there's almost like a CEO for each project, right?
Yeah, I mean, Jarvis does have a CTO needs to have kind of the business use case understanding as well. So, a CTO isn't just managing devs, it's understanding the development work in the context of the business use case. So that's why, things come in, like it does need to understand a little bit of like, okay, what is this? What's the product? What's the client, what are their needs, as well as our internal, business strategy and stuff like that. Obviously, it has to have some context of that.
Yeah.
And then the actual dev agents don't need to know that. They just need, like, okay, we made a decision to build this now to be built, so there's nested context. You don't want all of that business logic in the dev agent's context window because it'll confuse it, right? So you're keeping your context clean, where it needs to be, so
separation of concerns
exactly. Yeah. I think the agents are cheap. You could have millions of them, right? So don't try to stuff everything into one agent,
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So, and it also allows the human to better kind of grasp and picture like everything that's happening, right? Versus like I have one agent and it's spinning up all kinds of secret sub agents and doing stuff. And it's like, well, I have no picture of like what's actually happening here, right? So kind of my thing here is like, yeah, like I could fire Jarvis tomorrow and just do it myself, and nothing would change other than it might be a little bit slower then. So
has he earned his keep so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's still the onboarding phase. Like we're just building more tools, and I switched over from, because I wanted Jarvis to be harness and LLM agnostic. So I started it with using Claude and like Opus. Then I switched over to Codex and GPT-5, and that revealed that the Codex harness is not as good at this kind of work as the Claude Code harness, which was surprising. And so had to do a lot of kind of building structure for Jarvis to be able to use the Codex. And so there's been a lot of kind of trial and error there, like just building that up. And I might flip it back to Claude as the higher level, because again, like I have it like Jarvis will always use just sub-agents to do its work. So I don't want it to go like, hey, what's the status on this? And then it goes silent for 10 minutes while it's, checking things out. I want it to always go, yeah, okay, I'll check that out. And then it'll spin up a sub agent to go do the work, because I don't want, if I'm watching the text terminal, I don't want just like, it's running bash commands and doing stuff. It's like, where was its answer? Like, and then also because I will be moving to full voice of just talking to Jarvis and, him answering.
Yeah.
And so, so that's the biggest thing I'm working on now is like making Jarvis truly be able to multitask. The problem is Jarvis having trouble keeping up with me, because it's like, if I can delegate stuff, I will just be jumping across all my projects, working on things, making decisions. And so like I can be working on 20 projects at the same time because I'm delegating stuff, and Jarvis is having a little bit of trouble keeping up to me. So refining that. So it's getting there. Like just, I've had it that its heartbeat and wake up stuff hasn't been triggering properly, because I had it's like, well, heavy GPU stuff that's not immediate client stuff, that can run at nighttime. And it didn't run anything. It's like, okay, well, you have to figure out why it's not running, fix yourself. And it's been working on that now. But so like I can make sure that projects are being worked on 24/7 on a schedule, but also sensitive to priorities and resources and stuff like that. So, that's what computers are good at. Like, why do I have to figure that out and think about that, right? Like that's what computers are good at. And, get Jarvis to manage that. I will make the decisions on, if I have some research projects going, so I'll high level, direction on that. Any design stuff, I'll give my feedback on visual things and like that. Like for one product that we're building, we've gone from building it, we've deployed it on a demo system. We're running through testing it all out, demo use cases and everything. And
This is
the broker
this is
pilot.
for document processing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, document processing. So it's, I've got a whole testing schedule built. And then because it is a human interface, it's got a web UI. So now the agent has browser access to the deployed thing. So it's not just testing it locally on the dev machine running, it's the actual deployed system with everything hooked up. So it's going through clicking thing, it's going through all the edge cases of documents, and then it runs into problems, it'll fix them, redeploy, test it, the way a human would. So it's
just like an automated loop.
Yeah, it's going through its test program, fixing things as it finds them. Once that's done, then we'll do a review of what it all found, what it all fixed, and then we'll figure out like, oh, is there more edge cases that we should come up with and try to test and handle and like that. So, we're doing our alpha testing basically autonomously, automated.
And if you're a mortgage broker listening to this is going to be a really cool tool for you. We're really excited about. There's been a lot of excitement for it amongst brokers. So
yeah, but yeah, I think it's just finding the best way to work. And the funny thing is like, I think we try to take too many shortcuts. We can learn from how a human organization works. There's a reason why, things were done like that, because it's not just for delegating. It's also to capture things. It's about managing context. Humans need to have certain context, and sometimes they don't need context for what they're doing in an organization. It's the exact same thing. And so if you structure your agents in such a way, it's easier for you to manage, and you can get a lot more done. So versus the like, oh, here's my chat GPT, I'll just get it to do everything. And it's like, well, no, you're going to run into problems and issues, like guaranteed.
And a lot of people I speak with, I mean, that's been a big issue, is they kind of use ChatGPT, but it doesn't quite get them the results that they want. Like they try to use it to like create reports or social content, and it just doesn't quite get there that they can use it,
And then, I think the greatest comment I saw somewhere, someone talking about, using AI is like, AI is really good for fast iteration. So, say you're working on a website, don't just go, oh, create me a website, here's some of my brand colors. It's like, create 5 websites.
Yeah.
All of it different, and I'll give you feedback on all of them. And then from that feedback, create 2 versions. And then, based on that feedback, let's have 1. And now you're already closer, versus like, let's build 1. And then you're just prompting, no, I don't like that. Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that.
Right.
It's like, I mean, that's the way, if you had the money and you went to, an ad agency or, a top end web development, like that's what they do. They come up with 5 mock-ups. What do you like? Here's, colors, blah, blah, blah. You iterate down to, well, AI is so good at iterating. It built you multiple of these. You just give, as a human, you go, I like that. I don't like that. I like that, and you just refine. And so that's the way to do things. But, also there's people like, I'm just using the free chat GPT, it's like, well, good luck. You're not going to get much done. Even on the $20 one, you'll get a little bit more. Like there is a lot of value in that for a lot of minor stuff. But like, if you want to be really productive, you're going to spend some money. I was just thinking, it's like, well, all of my work right now that I'm building and doing, if I'm thinking of, my monthly income that I'm making off of all of this, and what I'm spending on AI to do all that so I can get my paycheck, so to speak. It's probably what I spend on tokens. The return is right now is about 10x.